The MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 is a laptop of contradictions. It's revolutionary, but plays it safe. Exciting, but a bit boring. It's a strange choice, and also makes complete sense. The good news is that it comes with Apple's brand new M2 chip, which the company promises offers a 40% performance increase over the M1, yet it remains the same price as the previous model, starting at $1,299, £1,299, $1,999 For anyone who was just about to buy a MacBook Pro 13-inch M1, 2020, getting the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 instead is a bit of a no-brainer, as you're kind of getting the M2 upgrade for free. Upgrade that lack of a price rise does come at a well price, however, as the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 features the same design as the previous model, and the one before that. If you love the look of the old MacBooks, this won't be an issue, but the lack of new design does make it feel a bit left out by Apple. Even if it is one of the best laptops you can buy right now, could this be the last MacBook Pro 13-inch we'll see? If that's the case, then it's a pretty great way to bow out. The M2 chip puts some good work in here, providing excellent performance, especially when it comes to video editing, and day-to-day use is, again, excellent, with multiple apps running at once without causing the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 any issues. Throughout our time with the laptop, we were impressed with how silent it was as well, with the fans rarely kicking in to keep things cool. You can even game on the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022, and while performance won't match a dedicated gaming laptop, it's an exciting glimpse at a future where Apple embraces Mac gaming more. We'll hopefully see more of this when Resident Evil Village and No Man's Sky come to Mac later this year. These games will feature support for the Metal 3 graphics API of the M2 chip, and hopefully this will lead to more ambitious and impressive games running on M2 MacBooks. Perhaps our favorite aspect of the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 is the battery life. At over 15.5 hours, this is incredibly impressive. Usually, for workstation laptops used for intensive workloads like video editing, you'd be looking at a battery life of around half this, or even less. It even outdoes the previous M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch, which shows that the M2 is even less battery hungry than its predecessor. However, despite all these successes, there is a feeling that the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 is the last of its kind. Not only does the lack of a redesign suggest a lack of enthusiasm for the product, and perhaps a way to use up existing stock from previous models, but with Apple getting into the habit of putting out new MacBooks, it's getting increasingly difficult to see what the 13-inch MacBook Pro fits in. The upcoming MacBook Air M2, 2022 has a new design, a larger, and brighter, screen, and should offer similar levels of performance due to having the same M2 chip, all while costing $100, £50, $100 less. There seems little reason to get the more expensive 13-inch MacBook Pro over the new MacBook Air. The default configuration of the MacBook Air offers an M2 chip with an 8-core GPU, so for graphically intensive tasks the MacBook Pro should have the edge, though you can upgrade the MacBook Air to an M2 chip with the same 10-core GPU as the one in the MacBook Pro 13-inch. Meanwhile, for people who want a more powerful MacBook to work on, the 14-inch MacBook and 16-inch MacBook Pro from last year offer better screens, performance and more ports. This means that despite undeniably being a fantastic laptop, the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 is strangely hard to justify. Announced at Apple's WWDC 2022 event, and starting delivery from June 24. The MacBook Pro 13-inch M2, 2022 sells for $1,299, £1,299, $1,999. The good news is that this is the same price the earlier MacBook Pro 13-inch M1, 2020 launched at, which means you're essentially getting an upgrade from the M1 to the M2 chip for free. The M1 was Apple's revolutionary first attempt at making its own computing chip, rather than relying on Intel to provide the processing power. It offered excellent performance and long battery life, and led to a resurgence in MacBooks, and we're not talking just in sales, but also within Apple itself. The company had felt for a while like it was more interested in iPhones and iPads, but the M1-powered MacBooks and Macs seemed to reinvigorate Apple's passion for its computers. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe, and ring the bell to be informed of our next videos. Until the next video, bye bye.